Have you ever had a nightmare where your child goes missing? I have, and we don't have children yet. Even in a dream, it's the worst feeling I can imagine. That is the basis of the second mystery, the kidnapped daughter. Hi, I'm Tiffany. This is Read by T-Rex, and here we read things. Today we're reading the second mystery in the Case Closed series. The second case, or mystery, the kidnapped daughter, starts cases that span multiple chapters. The kidnapped daughter starts with file 2 and ends with file 5. Each file or chapter was published in Shonen Weekly, and they were published on the following dates. File 2, The Great Detective Turned Small, was published January 12th, 1994. File 3, The Unwelcome Great Detective, was published January 19th, 1994. File 4, The Sixth Smokestack, was published January 26th, 1994. And File 5, The Other Perpetrator, was published February 2nd, 1994. With these multi-chapter mysteries, I'll go through my sections as we learn information. It tends to be pretty sequential, so we'll learn it in order, or my sections will follow the order of the information that we learn. I've also decided to change my sections a little bit, which I believe I went over in the last video. So I've added a section for the story or mystery setup. Instead of just one long introduction, I've broken it into an introduction and then the setup of the mystery itself. And a section to discuss visual storytelling in manga and in this manga specifically. This video is the second in a series delving into Case Closed, aka Detective Conan, by mangaka Gosho Aoyama. At this point, you don't have to watch the first one in order to understand this one, but it would be a really great introduction into the story, my initial thoughts, and some of the lingering questions that we still have from Case 1. So let's dive into Case 2, The Kidnapped Daughter, with File 2, The Great Detective Turned Small. Section 1, Story Setup. We start this chapter where the last one left off. Pretty immediate. Jimmy has been shrunk. His clothes are too big. He has been found by police. He's confused. His head hurts. He's got flashlights shining in his face, which I'm sure is not helping his headache. The police point out that he's probably like 6 or 7 years old, definitely in elementary school or primary school, whichever it is. The police pick him up to carry him to the Lost Child Center or the police station, one of the two. We cut to Rachel. She's coming home after her day with Jimmy. She greets her father in the living room, and this is our introduction to Richard Moore, Rachel's dad. He is essentially a single parent, which is very interesting given the time that this was published. He's drunk. The living room is a mess. Rachel points out to her father that his drinking and being a slob is why he can't get cases, and why her mother left him. It's one line, and it's that first panel where they interact that tells you so much about both of them and their relationship. Richard asks where Jimmy is. He remembered that they were going out together today. Rachel reminisces about her misgivings from her goodbye with Jimmy. Richard's closing line to this scene is, "Forget about Tim. Detectives are good for nothings." Rachel's response, "Dad, you're a detective." She calls him out immediately on that, and I love her. We cut back to Jimmy. He's doing his best to tell the police what happened to him. They're cracking up, thinking he's just a little kid telling tall tales. His head hurts, so he goes to look in the mirror at what his wound must look like, or some reflective glass. This is how Jimmy finds out he's been turned into a little kid. The cops are getting ready to take him to a daycare center, tight place, because he's a lost child and they deal with lost children. Jimmy books it. He runs. He's on the run from the police and some dogs chasing after him. I think they're supposed to be police dogs. It's not meant to be funny, but it's very funny. Next panel is an empty house with a phone ringing. No one answers. We see Rachel, still concerned, getting more concerned. Her dad asks if Jimmy could be out eating dinner with his parents. Rachel says no, they're in America and he's living on his own, just like he has been for the past 3 years. She has a gut feeling something happened to Jimmy. Rachel is an action girl, so she puts on her coat and grabs an umbrella and leaves the house. Now we cut back to Jimmy. It's raining. His little body is tired from all the running. He gets splashed by a passing truck. He feels really pathetic right now. Jimmy climbs over the gate to his house, or tries to, when an explosion gets his attention. This is our introduction to Dr. Agasa. Dr. Agasa asks who he is. Who is this little kid trying to break into Jimmy's home? Jimmy says, it's me, it's Jimmy. Dr. Agasa comes to the very reasonable conclusion that this is a relative of Jimmy's because the resemblance is just uncanny. It's just like Jimmy when he was a kid. Jimmy is fighting for his life to prove that he is Jimmy and not some random unnamed child. He starts spouting information at Dr. Agasa about Dr. Agasa. What he does, how they know each other, a hairy mole on Dr. Agasa's back. Or butt, I think. Jimmy is the only one that knew about Dr. Agasa's hairy mole. Dr. Agasa thinks Jimmy has been spilling his secrets. Jimmy explains himself. He got caught, some criminal forced a drug down his throat, he turned into a kid. Dr. Agasa says, I'm bringing you to the police station. And they can deal with this. Jimmy says, wait. One more thing. He does his detective thing. This will be one of the only times that I show most of a page. I'm going to try not to, because I think you really should read the manga for yourself. They are amazing to read. I cut out a lot, I summarize a lot, but to see it visually is very, very nice. But I am just going to show what Jimmy's deductions look like, because it's pretty intense. This deduction convinces Dr. Agasa that this is Jimmy, and he is talking to Jimmy. Jimmy has been turned into a child. And they turn to walk inside Jimmy's home. We already know what happened. We were there, we watched. So we don't get the explanation. Our next panel is afterwards, after Jimmy has explained himself to Dr. Agasa and given him the rundown of what happened. Dr. Agasa is stunned. His brain is spinning about the substance used to shrink Jimmy. Jimmy's in the same panel, but off to the side, having a little bit of a crisis because he's wearing clothes from when he was 6 years old and they fit him perfectly. Jimmy asks Dr. Agasa to fix him because the doctor is a genius scientist. Dr. Agasa says, how would you like me to do that? He's like, if I were to be able to come up with an antidote, I would need the original substance first. That's how you make an antidote. They banter for a little bit, and Dr. Agasa is like, hold the fuck on, Jimmy, you gotta fake your death. Don't let anyone find out you were turned into a kid. Don't let the Men in Black find you. Those guys wanted you dead. They wanted to kill you. Their intent was to kill you. You are in danger if they find you. Your friends are in danger. Your family is in danger. Everyone's in danger. They're going to be scoping out your house to find you if they figure out that you were turned into a kid. He is adamant about this, and probably right. Rachel arrives to Jimmy's home. She's been over so many times that she just starts walking around the house looking for Jimmy. She's very comfortable in his home, which is very indicative of childhood friends. Dr. Agasa tells Jimmy to hide. He panics, which is one of my favorite scenes. They're in a library. Where does he hide? It's a great panel. Rachel comes into the library. These two are canonically geniuses. I love them both. Rachel marvels at the library. It is massive. It is a home library. She and Dr. Agasa make some small talk about Jimmy's father. Jimmy's father is a mystery writer, and he keeps a lot of mystery series by all kinds of mystery writers. Rachel makes some comment about being surrounded by this many mystery novels. It's kind of no wonder that Jimmy turned into a detective nerd. Jimmy cannot help himself from commenting when Rachel calls him a geek. That's how he gets found. He's like, I'm a geek. Yes. Yes. Rachel finds his hiding place because you just talked. And he's just standing behind a desk. Of course she does. There's this very funny little scene where he is looking around for a disguise, and he sees his father's glasses, but his father turns out his father was like blind. So he has to pop the lenses out to be able to see. Dr. Agasa and Jimmy panic. What did they say? Rachel gets down on Jimmy's level to say hello, which is a great way to greet children, actually. Jimmy is freaking out. What does he do? Rachel gives him a hug. All she's thinking is that this kid is adorable. She asks, who is this? Dr. Agasa is apparently the faster thinking of the two of them, and he says that is a distant relative of his. Rachel turns to Jimmy and asks some questions, basic things. How old are you? What's your name? Jimmy starts to say, well, I'm 6. So he corrects himself mid-word and says, yeah, no, 6. 6. He stutters, trying to think of a name. He is stood, there are books behind him, and he's looking around just for any kind of inspiration. And he comes up with the name. Conan Edogawa. I remind you, audience, that this story is set in Japan. His name is not actually Jimmy, his name is Shinichi. He is talking to Ran. So Conan is a very strange name for a little Japanese boy. Rachel points out, that's a weird name. Dr. Agasa turns to Jimmy and he's like, dude, WTF. Jimmy's like, listen, man, I panicked. Rachel redirects. She came here looking for Jimmy. She would like to find Jimmy. Dr. Agasa says, I don't know. He was just here. And then Dr. Agasa has an idea. Dr. Agasa asks if Rachel can look after little Conan. He says Conan's parents are in the hospital. There was some kind of accident. He's been asked to look after Conan, but he lives alone and works all day, so it's not going to work out for Conan to stay with him. So, Rachel says, sure, I just have to ask my dad. These are teenagers. She is 16. Dr. Agasa and Jimmy have a little sidebar. They argue. Jimmy says she will figure me out. She knew me when I was 6. Dr. Agasa says, you can't stay in your house. Eventually, they're gonna figure out that there was no body, you didn't die. So they'll scope out your house trying to find you. And you can't stay here. Also, Rachel's dad is a PI. He's a detective. so he'll have access to information that may help them find the men in black. Jimmy hears men in black might be found. He says, bet. Take me home, please. Rachel loves cute things, so she just agrees. I love all of this series so much. On the walk to Rachel's place, she chit-chats with Jimmy, Conan. I'll kind of use those names interchangeably, honestly. They talk about having someone special, having a crush. Rachel asks if Conan has anyone he likes a lot, and he says, no. Rachel says she does. Jimmy, as Conan, asks if it's this Jimmy kid that Rachel was looking for earlier. Rachel says, yeah. I love her. I love her. She lists some reasons that she likes Jimmy. He's overconfident and he babbles about detectives. But she thinks he's brave. And he's cool when it counts. She asks if Conan can keep it a secret, because she hasn't told Jimmy yet. He agrees, kind of subdued. So most of the time, moving forward, I will alternate between calling him Jimmy and calling him Conan. It's a little hard to pinpoint, but there are times where he is more Jimmy and there are times where he is more Conan. I'll try to note on the bottom of the screen that Jimmy and Conan are the same person. They get to Rachel's place. Rachel is thrilled to have a little brother. Jimmy is feeling conflicted. Rachel just spilled a whole bunch of her secrets to him without knowing that it's him. So should he come clean? Should he tell her the truth? He gets ready to. He says, But before he can, Richard literally stumbles into the scene. There's a door and then stairs up to their apartment, and he comes fucking tumbling down the stairs. Rachel's like, hello? Richard is thrilled. He got a case. A little girl has been kidnapped by a man in black. Jimmy says, man in black, you say? Section 2, the mystery. This one is actually pretty cut and dry. There's not a whole lot to it, so we'll just get into a little blurb about the mystery itself. Richard is very excited to have work. So at the Big Tani estate in Yayoicho, Akiko Tani, the only daughter, 10 years old, has been kidnapped. The culprit is noted to be a large man dressed in black. The home's butler witnessed the event. The butler, Aso, gives Richard his statement. Section 3. We're going to do a little bit of a sidebar for this section, but I promise it helps. Who is in this story? So in the first few panels, we get a couple of names and some faces. So let's start with 3.1. We have our recurring characters. We have Jimmy / Conan, again, interchangeable. We have Richard, and we have Rachel. Section 3.2, we have our story-specific characters. The first one we were introduced to was our victim, Akiko Tani, 10 years old, kidnap victim. The next person we were introduced to is Mr. Tani, the client himself, Akiko's father. Finally, we've been introduced to Aso, the butler, the witness. Section 3.3, name changes in the story. First, we have my boy, Jimmy, whose name is actually Shinichi. Then my girl, Rachel, whose name is Ran Mori. They don't change Jimmy's last name, but they change her last name. Finally, we have Rand's dad, Richard Moore, whose name in Japanese is Kogoro Mori. What does that have to do with Richard? Nothing. Nothing. They kept the side characters' names all the same, and Dr. Agasa's name, which is weird because we see a lot of Dr. Agasa throughout the series. So why did we only change Shinichi, Ren, and Kogoro's names? Never explained. Section 4. We're going to return back to our main story. What happened? Back to Aso's statement. Richard is asking Aso questions about what he saw. Jimmy cuts in with his own questions. Richard chews him away pretty violently. So in this manga, and a lot of manga that I've seen at least, characters get hit on the head as a form of like, can you not do that? Bam. And they have like little bumps on their head. It's a visual way to show that they're being annoying, I guess. So Richard does that. He hits Jimmy on the head, he shoos him away, and tells Rachel to keep an eye on him. Rachel's the one that brought him along. Rachel can keep track of this kid. Rachel tells Conan to stay out of the way. Richard keeps questioning Aso. Aso says the culprit was a man in black. Jimmy thinks that there's a connection to the men that turned him into a kid and the man that supposedly kidnapped this young girl. This is kind of an overview of Aso's statement. Aso says Akiko came home from school and she was playing in the garden. A man in black came from the edge of the garden, scooped Akiko up, and made a demand. If he wants Akiko back, Mr. Tani has to shut down his company for a whole month. Then he climbed a tree and left the garden with Akiko. Jimmy butts in with some more questions. What did the man sound like? What did the man's voice sound like? Aso answers that the voice was high-pitched but also low. That doesn't really make sense. Richard smacks Jimmy again. He's like, move away. He is pissed that this little kid is completely underfoot. Two women, unnamed, who work at the house, later noted to be maids, get interviewed as well. They were at the house when the incident happened. They were inside, and they didn't hear anything until Aso came shouting that Akiko had been kidnapped. He told the two maids to go and get Mr. Tani. So Aso is the only one that has seen or heard the kidnapper. Richard's initial conclusion is that it has to be a rival company that did this. Mr. Tani says the kidnapper has taken his daughter and now wants money on top of that? Aso says, no. When the kidnapper looked at me directly in the face, he said to shut down the company. He didn't say anything about money. Mr. Tani says that the kidnapper called just now and demanded 300 million yen. I'll do a little, like over here, what that conversion would be, because keep in mind this is also in 1994, so I don't know how much money that was, like yen to US dollars. I also don't know what the conversion rate from 1994 to 2026 is, so I'll put that down here. Aso is shaken by this news. He and Mr. Tani bicker a little bit. He's like, no, the kidnapper didn't say that. Mr. Tani said, yes, he did. I heard him with my own ears. Jimmy is poking around. He's examining the tree that the kidnapper used to escape. Remember, Mr. Aso says he climbed up the tree with Akiko. When Jimmy gets too close to the tree, the family dogs go ballistic. He tries to get Richard's attention to tell him about the dogs. Richard tells him to buzz off and tells Rachel to keep a better eye on him. Jimmy pouts. He really does. As Jimmy Kudo, He was listened to and respected. As Conan Edogawa, no such luck. He's just a little kid. He starts playing with a ball that Akiko left in the yard. He starts kicking, like, I don't know, it's not juggling. It's a thing they do with soccer balls where they don't let it touch the ground. Someone who's more well versed in sports, tell me what that is. I don't know. So he's doing that. Rachel is impressed, and she says, "Wow, you like soccer just like Jimmy does." When Jimmy was thinking, he would kick a soccer ball around just like that. And that is exactly what Jimmy, as Conan, is doing. He's mulling over the case, thinking, while he kicks the soccer ball. Or a ball. And he's thinking. He kicks the ball too hard and smacks Richard in the head when he figures something out. While Richard is distracted, grumbling about this kid who keeps interfering, Aso tries to sneak away. Jimmy follows him and says, "Hey, where are you going?" Aso was going to where Akiko was hidden. He is caught, but all Jimmy has is Conan's word. How does he get anyone's attention? He kicks the ball again towards the tree. It sets the dogs off loud enough to get Richard's attention. Jimmy explains as soon as the ball got close to the tree, the dogs started barking. It was scary. It's explained that the dogs bark at all strangers, everyone they don't know. Richard is putting some pieces together. Remember, the maid said that it was quiet. Why would it have been quiet if there was a stranger climbing up the tree? Aso tries to sneak away again. Richard calls him out for this. Richard starts talking, making deductions. Aso's story just doesn't make sense. The dogs bark at any stranger near the tree, and the maids didn't hear anything. So there wasn't any stranger near the tree. There couldn't have been. Aso kept making vague statements about what he saw and what he heard. He wasn't able to give a concrete description of a voice, of a person, of anything. Richard says there was no man in black. It was you, Aso. Aso admits it. He admits that he took Akiko out of the garden, and he tries to explain. Richard cuts him off and says, "Case is closed. Done." No. No, it's not. No, it's not. There's a phone call. There's still a ransom. Who is it that's calling? We've moved on to file 4. I think I skipped file 3. We've moved on to file 4, the 6th smokestack. Richard assumes that the person on the phone is an accomplice. An accomplice. Also denies this. He says, no, it is not. No, it is not. No, it is not. Jimmy is thinking again. He's thinking. Someone must have taken Akiko from where Aso had put her, which was a hotel. While they're on the phone, the kidnapper lets Akiko talk on the phone. She asks her dad for help. The kidnapper says the following: "Pay up, or I beat this kid to death, because I have a short temper and she's annoying." Mr. Tani says, I'll get the money. Richard tells Mr. Tani to get more info about the location. Mr. Tani repeats Richard's instructions. The kidnapper's like, "Is that cops? Because if there's any cops, girl dies." Akiko has some survival instincts. We love a girl who wants to live. She starts shouting. She says, "I am in a storage room at a school. I can see a smokestack out the window. Help." Kidnapper smacks her to shut her up. He ends the call by saying he'll tell Mr. Tani where to bring the money. Click. Also, Mr. Tani and Richard are debating where Akiko could be. They're going through all that they know about schools and schools where you can see smokestacks, and they're trying to figure it out. They do not have any answers. Conan is worried that the kidnapper will act, since he believes that the police are involved. His thought is, if he knows he's already caught, he's just going to kill the girl. Conan spies the dogs and decides to ride one as a horse for his next plan. He is riding this giant dog, which I suspect to be a mastiff, around the city, looking at schools and smokestacks, and schools where you can see smokestacks out of windows and storage rooms. He has 5 in mind. He looks at all 5. No luck. He's run out of options. He sees a building and he has a thought. What would that building look like from the side? It looks like a smokestack. Jimmy thinks about the layout of the city. He's got like maps pictured in his head. I'm very jealous. I can't do that. And he comes to the conclusion that it has to be Futa Subashi Junior High. He rides this dog to his destination. Next thing we see is Akiko and the kidnapper. He's on the phone. He's telling Mr. Tani where to drop off the money. The bench at Hyakuji Park. After hanging up, the kidnapper turns to Akiko. She's seen his face, so she has to die. Conan and the dog barge in. They are there to save Akiko. Conan is taking the duct tape off of Akiko's mouth. The dog attacks the kidnapper. Conan introduces himself. I am Conan Edogawa, detective. But the kidnapper gets the best of the dog. The dog is injured. We hate it. Conan attacks, but he is in the body of a 6-year-old, and he is very easily and quickly overpowered. Conan is getting beaten up by a grown man. The kidnapper says it doesn't matter if he kills 1 kid or 2 kids. He's going to kill them and take the money and disappear. File 5, the other perpetrator. Again, file starts, grown man trying to kill an actual child. Akiko is still tied up. Her arms are still bound. She turns to her dog, Jumbo. We find out the dog's name is Jumbo, and asks Jumbo to help. Jumbo is missing. He's gone. All seems lost. The kidnapper is going to kill Conan, and then he's going to kill Akiko, and then he's going to get the money, and then he's going to disappear, and no one is ever going to find him. There is several pages depicting Conan getting beaten up, so we're going to move on to our next scene because I do not want to describe a grown man beating up a child. We see an arm stop the kidnapper's back. Yes, he's using a weapon to beat up a small child. It's Rachel. And remember, Rachel is kick-ass and probably has some underlying anger issues. So she fucks him up. Let's look at this page. It's great. I love it. She kicks the man's ass like it's nothing. She knocks his teeth out. He falls unconscious. I love her. Richard and Jumbo come into the room next. Richard, Rachel's dad, Jumbo, the dog. Rachel is already untying Akiko and looking Conan over. She is now entering this very caretaking role where she's looking to make sure that he's not super injured. She's taking care of them. She's trying to comfort as much as she can. Conan asks, "How did you find us?" It turns out, when Jumbo got beaten up, He took one of Akiko's shoes and ran back to the house. Mr. Tani recognized the shoe and said, "Oh my god, that's Akiko's." Richard had said, "Follow the dog," and then they did, and that's how they found them. Mr. Tani and Akiko have a tearful reunion. Section 5. Whodunit? Why? The kidnapper says he saw Akiko at the hotel where she was at the restaurant eating alone. Richard is confused. Akiko was kidnapped by Aso and then kidnapped again? Mr. Tani is pissed. He is yelling at Aso. "How could you do this? What the fuck, dude?" Akiko steps in. She says, "No!" And then she explains it all. This whole case, this whole kidnapping, it was her idea. Mrs. Tani died 3 years ago. And since then, Mr. Tani threw himself into his work and didn't spend any time with Akiko. She thought if Mr. Tani had to close his company, he could spend more time with her. And the only way she could think to get him to listen was to pretend to be kidnapped. This is a very 10-year-old way of thinking. Aso didn't really want to, but Akiko insisted that this would work, that this would be okay, that she would do this with or without Aso. Mr. Tani quietly reflects for a moment before he tells Aso that what he did was still unacceptable. So in order to make up for it, you are going to have to work hard. Work right now. Plan a week-long trip for Mr. Tani and Akiko to spend time together. What a nice ending. Except then he cuts in and he's like, "Ooh, but like maybe not next week because next week I have a board meeting and the week after is really busy." Aso and Akiko were like, "Dude, for real? Did we learn nothing here?" Mr. Tani promises they'll go soon and he'll stop working so much. Mr. Tani thanks Richard for thinking to follow the dog. Conan grumbles about how he did all the legwork and he got beaten up, but he knows Richard well enough to know that Richard will take the credit. Our very next panel, he does exactly that. Mr. Tani says, "I will reach out with your reward." Richard says, "Yeah." Akiko says, "Thanks, Mr. Detective." Rachel looks at Conan. Conan says, "Oh, no. Must have meant Richard. Must have meant Richard. Not me. I'm not a detective. I'm just Conan." Richard, Rachel, and Jimmy ride home in a taxi. Richard had a great day. Jimmy did not. Rachel goes ahead and explains that Conan is a distant relative of Dr. Agasa's and says that she's been asked to look after him. Richard agrees and says that it's fine because Conan must have been a good luck charm. Jimmy thinks about his plan to use Richard's office to try to gather any information about the Men in Black. He wants to uncover the organization, its purpose, and find a way to go back to normal. That is the end of Mystery 2, The Kidnapped Daughter. Section 6, Overarching Plot Details. Oops. So our overarching plot details include the fact that Conan Edogawa, also known as Jimmy Kuro, will now be staying with Richard and Rachel more. He will be using the fact that Richard is a detective to his advantage to try to find out more about the Men in Black. We have no further information about the Men in Black during this case. That's kind of it. Now, Section 7, Character Development. We will start with our mystery-specific characters and any kind of snapshot development that they came to in these three chapters. Mr. Tani learns that his overwork is directly affecting his only daughter, and she is lonely. Akiko Tani learns that the world is dangerous and probably don't plan kidnapping schemes involving yourself. And that she should also probably actually try talking to her father before, again, plotting her own kidnapping. Yeah, yeah. I'm not really sure Asa learns anything at all, but he doesn't lose his job, so that's something. Next, our recurring characters. What does anyone learn in this case? It's not great. Richard gets a big head, thinking that he solved the case all on his own. He's great. He's amazing. Everything worked out great. So his character development is some more confidence, unearned confidence. Rachel sees a couple similarities between Conan and Jimmy. She sees Conan as a little brother that she has to protect, and she will. Jimmy gets some more humble pie. Remember last time his character development that he was incredibly humbled? Here's some more humbling. His brain works just as well as it did before, so he still has the mind of his 16-year-old self, but his body is too small. A 6-year-old can't take on a grown man as he is. He will have to let Richard take credit for solving cases, even if Richard didn't really do anything. This is a kid who has made his entire identity that he is a detective. Again, very humbling. Section 8, visual storytelling. So let's look at some of my favorite faces made during this mystery. Richard drunk, Jimmy panicking, Jimmy shocked, Jimmy injured, also shocked. Rachel looking relaxed with Conan. We get to see her kind of in her element, vibing, having a great time. She's great with kids. This is amazing for her. Richard angry. Some of my all-time favorite panels of this case. Rachel and Jimmy as Conan at their first introduction. In that quiet little moment. Rachel saving the day. Kick-ass. No notes. Conan riding what looks like a mastiff dog. Amazing. Amazing. No notes. Thank you, Mr. Detective. That's a really cute scene. She's a really cute kid. And Richard taking credit for solving the case again. What a face. Something I love is the way that Aoyama shows character traits in body language and the way that characters are drawn. When Rachel is being badass, when she is kicking ass, when she is fighting, she doesn't talk. She's not there to explain why she's kicking your ass. She's just going to kick it. When she is shown, it is some of the only times that she is shown scowling, angry, is when she is upset because someone she cares about got hurt. And then she steps aside. She says, I've done my part, Richard can do his part, it's fine. She provided the muscle, and that's what she considers to be her involvement in this case. She's done. Richard, on the other hand, has a big mouth, literally and figuratively. He is loud. He's loud-mouthed, and he talks. His mouth opens wide when he yells or laughs or gloats. When Richard takes credit, his laughter in the panel is in the panel. It doesn't even go into word bubbles of its own. It's just the panel. His body language is exaggerated with big movements. When he pats Conan on the back, it's pat, pat, pat. It's not just no, he's smacking him for no reason. Jimmy is introspective. His brain is working so much faster. He is taking information in, he's mulling it over, he's analyzing it. We see that in panels with his internal narration. We see his internal dialogue. and we see how he's interacting with the world while he's doing that internal dialogue, such as kicking the ball around. Jimmy is very smart and he's a great detective. But when he thinks Rachel's going to find him out, he just kind of runs around, a little lost. Again, very funny. Rachel calls him a geek, and he's so insulted he blows his own cover. The panel where he picks his name is amazing. It's the epitome of someone asking you a question, a simple question that you should know the answer to, and your entire brain just goes, ah. It's great. Section 9, questions. First, we're going to go over our first 8 questions. Were there any questions from the last time that got answered? So just as a reminder, we'll go over our first 8 questions. Question number 1, who are the men in black? Not answered. Question number 2, what is the organization they're from? Not answered. Question number 3, what is the goal of the organization? Not answered. Question number 4, where are Jimmy's parents? They've been in America for 3 years. Jimmy lives alone since he was 13. Question 5, does Jimmy get paid? Broken into 5A and 5B, which we won't go over because that question is not answered here. Question number 6, is Rachel's dad actually a bad detective?
Okay. My laptop storage filled up and cut me off mid-sentence. So I was at question number 6. Is Rachel's dad actually a bad detective? Probably yes. Question number 7 we had was how did Inspector McGuire just come up with let the kid investigate? Not answered. So now we are adding for question number 8, which I labeled 9 because it turns out I can't count. Can you just pawn a child off on a teenager? Like, what if he needs to go to the doctor or sign him up for school or any of that? Don't you need, like, custody paperwork? Questions. Question number 9. What do smokestacks belong to? Like, what are they, what is being made in those places that they need smokestacks? Question 10. Is Rachel suspicious that Conan is Jimmy? She's kind of paying him a lot of attention. It's very interesting. Question number 11. Where did Dr. Agasa come from? Like, overall, where is he from? How did he meet these people? Question number 12. Will Jimmy ever be normal again? Unlikely to be answered anytime soon. This leads us to section 10, our conclusion for this case. Mystery 2 sets up a lot for the rest of the series. Richard is a bumbling detective and he will absolutely take credit for things he didn't do. He is unashamed. Rachel is a natural protector and she sees Conan as a little brother, so she will do what she has to protect him. We reinforce Rachel's title as my favorite character, uncontested. Conan, Jimmy, will be living with Rachel and Richard for the foreseeable future. Now, I've read some of this series already, so I have the benefit of a little bit of foreknowledge. Seeing it all happen again, I'm loving the bits of foreshadowing that we're getting here and there that I can pinpoint to my favorite moments in the future. When they come up, I'll roll back to it when there is payoff. But there's already nuggets of things to just keep in mind. I do also know that some of the future mysteries can get a little bit gruesome, so keep that in mind moving forward. This one wasn't too bad, although hurting Jumbo the dog was unforgivable. Death to that guy, whose name is never mentioned in the mystery, and it doesn't matter because who cares? Fuck him. I mean, To be fair, the series also did start with a beheading, so it's safe to say you learn from the beginning that Aoyama isn't afraid to kill characters in some pretty dramatic ways. I also love that even the characters that were only here for this mystery felt like they had some substance. Akiko and Aso's motivations made sense and tracked for a 10-year-old kid, if we're being completely honest. Mr. Tani didn't just magically change at the end of the mystery. He's still a workaholic, and he's still going through, yes, no, absolutely, I will make time for you, my daughter. Just maybe not next week, because I have a meeting, and maybe not the week after, but it will make time. Which is a little bit more realistic in the aspect of, like, yeah, it's not easy to change immediately. Overall, Mystery 2 is a hit for me. With that said, I'm Tiffany. This is Read by T-Rex, and here we read things. Today, we read Case Closed Mystery 2, The Kidnapped Daughter. Join me next time for Case Closed Mystery 3, Idle Locked Room Murder Case. Okay, so at the very end of this recording, my storage on my laptop filled up and I had to delete a bunch of things and then come back. So there's going to be a pretty weird little jump from the beginning of question like 6 to the beginning of question 6 again. I'm going to try to cut it, but yeah, I am recording on my laptop, which does not have a great amount of storage space. I can't have my external hard drive plugged in at the same time as my fancy new little lapel mic. This lapel mic right here, which I got to replace my headphones because it looked really weird and also was crackling horribly. Camera quality improved as well. That is because I did not know this. I can tell my laptop, which is a MacBook, to record on my cell phone, which is an iPhone, because it's all logged into my Apple account. So I can now record at night. And in admittedly much better quality. So already we're making improvements. I think I spent $20 on this microphone, so most of the improvements I made so far have been at little to no cost to me. Join me as we upgrade technology every video.